So I think what I'm hearing in there is that sometimes people are probably framing a can't as a won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, how, like when somebody is sitting in front of me, I don't believe in resistant couples if they're sitting in your office, right? Like,
Yes. Oh, I like that. That's
you
good.
came in, so there may be barriers or something's not working for you. But if
Sure.
you actually sat in city traffic to come and see me, to pay me money,
Yep.
that's not resistance. This
Yep.
means there might be a disconnect or a mismatch, but
Sure.
I don't think that that's resistance. And so, how do you help people tease out the can't from the won't?
Yeah.
Welcome to The Intimate Philosopher, where philosophy meets intimacy and life's biggest questions finally feel at home. I'm Dr. Emma Smith. I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified sex therapist, and existential philosophy nerd, inviting you to join me for an after hours conversation. This is a space to slow down, pour a glass of wine, or maybe a cup of tea, and explore the messy, beautiful intersections of meaning, connection, desire, and being fully human. This is the place for real conversations about the parts of life that don't fit neatly into a box. So grab your glass, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hi, friends, and welcome back to The Intimate Philosopher. I am so excited. This meeting has been on my calendar for like a month now, and I am so excited to bring to you the brilliant and lovely and somebody I am lucky to be friends with, Kory Andreas. And Kory, say hello, introduce yourself.
Hello. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. This has been a long time in the making. We get to our plans eventually, but they stay in our brains for a while before we make them happen.
No, this is so exciting because I think that, you and I have such a passion for the work that we do in the world and also a kind of an outside the box approach. Like
Yeah.
you just launched your own podcast,
I
which is
did.
really
I
so
did.
exciting.
We're
How's that
doing
going?
things. It's great. I mean, it's great. It's the greatest thing ever. I can't imagine anything I would like to do more than deliberately talk to all the people that I think are brilliant and all the people who have these great stories. And I often say to people, and since being in private practice, I think constantly, I just think to myself, like, people need to hear this. They need to hear exactly what you're saying. Like, they need to hear your story. They need to hear your approach. Because I just think there's so much misunderstanding out there about autism and neurodivergence, and that's the population I work with. So it's really given me an opportunity to let people just be people and be themselves. And it's free and anybody can listen to. I just love it. I think it really gives people access to something that they really need.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite things about the podcast too. I'm going through this period of, where I've gotten myself into a lot of different buckets, right? And I
Right.
went, "Oh, I think I need to pare back." And I was talking to my partner and I was like, "Okay, so here are the priorities. And by the way, the podcast that is staying. Like
Forever. Yeah.
it is staying."
Yes.
So, it is one of my favorite things to do as
Yeah.
well because I think it's the giving back, right? Like,
Yes.
there's only so many people who we're going to be able to fit in our caseloads,
Yeah.
and this is where you get to say, okay, I know I say this probably to 99% of the people I work
Yeah.
with. What if I just said it out in the world?
Yes, and honestly, I have thought since day 1 of doing therapy, and maybe because I'm in this, like, niche lane of, working with a very specific type of client, it's probably not really niche, but just the work that I do is pretty specific, and I think to myself constantly, the things that I'm saying over and over and over again, and the biggest part here that I think is healing, it reminds me of what we thought group therapy would be like. Like, when you go and you hear someone go, "Oh, I feel that way too." When I can sit with someone who doesn't understand their neurology quite yet because they're just starting to understand it and say, "Hey, that thing you just said, everybody I work with says that," or, that thing you're describing having trouble with is incredibly common with other late diagnosed adults. So what I love about this is I don't have to say it. They're hearing it straight from other people. And I think it's so powerful. That's why we're all on social media listening to other people's stories. We just need more.
Yes, yes. Well, and not to bury the lead, but please tell people what you do because you do it
Yeah.
brilliantly.
So I work with neurodivergent adults and couples. I do assessments, and I am really just working in the world of people who have been missed in neurodivergent spaces. Things have changed so dramatically in the last 10 years. I actually had this full circle moment the other day where the first training I went to ever to hear about autism in women was in 2019. And in my mind, it was like, 1999, but that's not true. It was definitely 2019. And it was Donna Henderson, and she's local, and she gave this presentation that literally rocked my world. I mean, it rocked my personal world, my professional world, my parenting world. And since then, I mean, that is literally 7 years ago. That was the first time I heard anybody say women have autism and it looks different. And now, I took that talk, I sent notes to everyone I knew, and I changed everything I was doing in life to kind of follow that interest. So now, all these years later, which is not really that much time, that's become my just driving force. I work with people who are, the high maskers, the late diagnosed, the people who got missed because their autism wasn't visible. And I'm just trying to kind of reinvent what therapy looks like in this space, what, additional outside the box help looks like. I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of presenting, I do some unmasking retreats. So it's been really cool. I think I'm someone that needs to reinvent myself every 20 minutes. And this has been a really great area to do that because there's so many places where I think my skills could be useful. And there's this massive population of people that are just desperate for help. So I just love my job with every cell in my body.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something and make sure I've
Yeah.
got this right. Okay. So were you diagnosed prior to 2019?
No. No. Not only was I not diagnosed, like we were in this uphill battle. Ooh, geez, hold on. Speaking of edits, my gosh, I can't keep these in my ears. I have massive ears. I don't know if you notice under this hair, but they're enormous and I can't keep like anything in them. So this is like a constant uphill battle. There we go. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was not diagnosed in 2019 at all. We were going through a lot with my daughter, who was diagnosed at that time, but I was sort of having this identity crisis of what autism was, not my own identity, but just in general, like, what am I doing here? Because so many of my clients were boys. I was working with teenage autistic boys for decades. And my own kiddo, this was totally, lost on me. I didn't see that this was autism. I didn't see how she could be so social and so outgoing and all the things we were told at that time that were just wrong. So in, desperately trying to find information on how to help her, I ended up, going down this rabbit hole, and that led to my own diagnosis. It led to me leaving my job and doing private practice and really just deeply, immersing myself in this work. But talk about a huge change. I mean, a complete 180 from then to now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so I'm just wrapping my head around the timeline then because
Yeah.
I think I met you in early 2021, I think.
I move quickly. I Here's the beauty of special interest and hyperfocus. There is just nothing I learn or do that is small, just nothing. So yeah, I just it took off. And it's funny, I also have this pattern where if someone says to me, "Hey, do you think you might do this?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not." And then I do that thing. So right around that time, someone said to me, like, "Would you ever do private practice?" I said, "Absolutely not." Like, no, no, I would definitely. I love being in the schools. I love working with the quirky kids who are having trouble. And then, everything just changed on a dime. COVID happened and I was already doing a deep dive into private practice and getting into this specialty. I'd gotten the certification for neurodiverse couples work. And then I was just like, let's do it. Like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it. And I have no chill. I have no chill whatsoever.
I love this. Oh my gosh, that's incredible because the origin story of us. So you're not just a
Yeah.
brilliant psychotherapist who I make it a point to pay attention to what you were doing and go to your trainings, and we can
You're the
talk more about
best.
that in a little bit. But you're also a dear friend
Yes.
and somebody who I admire so much. And one of the ways that we met was we met on a training. You had just given
Yes.
this brilliant training on I was when I was doing my sex therapy training, and
Yes.
they were talking about it was just like it was the neurodiverse week, where we
Yeah.
had a couple people coming in and they were focusing on different neurodiverse diagnoses. And so you were talking about adult autism, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what?" And how this shows up in relationships and how it shows up in sex. And then my neurosparkly brain went on
Yeah.
fire and I asked you a bunch of questions. And then I
Yeah.
was like, "Do you have time to talk afterwards?"
Yes, and we did, and I love that. Honestly, like, all my favorite people started that way. I feel like that's the only way I make it friends in adulthood. I'm like, "Do you wanna talk about autism?" And then we just hit it off. But yeah, it was great, and it's I've had that experience so many times where I'll give a training and then someone will come up and talk, and I'm so drawn to other therapists that are, like, interested and curious and doing d and it's great because, when I have a question about couple stuff, I can pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, what's this about?" And it's just an amazing way to connect with other people. But yeah, we hit it off right away and we've kept in touch and now you're my conference buddy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because we just got back from this psychotherapy networker symposium that had like 3,300 people or
Yeah.
something. It's huge. And so anybody who has listened to this podcast for more than 2.5 seconds knows that I am an introvert. And so that is just a lot.
Overwhelming.
It's a lot. And so
Yes.
you're my safe space.
Yes, we sit in the quiet spot together and we have breakfast alone and we just hide in corners. Yeah.
Yes. And then after the last session, it's like we're just going back to the hotel and
Yeah.
I will see you tomorrow. No, I won't be texting
It's
you.
so sweet. So great. Yeah, I swear. It's like that's such a gift to have friendships where you're like, "You get me, right? Okay, great." I remember last year there was one night where like the first time at the conference, you were like, "I'm gonna go get a drink down at the bar. Do you want to meet?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I can't even get out of this chair. Like I am in jammies. I can't even put clothes on right now." And you were just like, "I get it." I was like, "I appreciate that so much because it's not you at all. It's me." Like I'm the
No, I
worst.
100% get that, and I think as an adult, like, I just have come to value that and say, "I need friendships that don't have any
Yes.
pretense."
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
absolutely.
It's beautiful to be able to talk about your capacity with people too. I think we spend so much like it's such an autism thing. We spend our whole lives being like, "We're fine, everything's fine," push that feeling down, and it's really interesting to have like a group of people around me now where I can just be like, "No, can't," or like, "You're gonna have to come with me," or "This is gonna have to be short," or whatever it is, and be like, "Yeah, that's fine." I'm like, "Wow, could I have done that the whole time?" I'm not sure, but it's very cool. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, same. Okay, so the reason that I wanted to bring you on, other than that if you stick us together, we're gonna have a good time.
Anytime.
Yes, is, in my practice, so with, sex and couples
Mhm.
therapy and just thinking about the complexities and the intersections and the vulnerability that
Yeah.
comes from being so like fully exposed to this other person that you really care about in your intimate relationships while, all this other stuff is happening in the world is really hard for just about anybody. But when you think about when I was listening to your last, presentation, which was brilliant, you were talking about the sheer volume of information that neurodiverse brains take in,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
autistic brains take in and the feelings and the depth of feelings. I was just like blown away by that and thought, "Oh my goodness, like we need to talk more about this because I'm sure that's impacting people's sex life."
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and they say autistic brains are taking in on average like I think it's 42% more information just at rest. I mean, not that's when we're not trying. So we're noticing everything. And how many times have you met with a couple where one or both of the partners has said, I really have to drink before we have sex or I have a hard time turning off my brain to connect with intimacy. And there are a lot of different things that we're taught about that and now I just find myself constantly just revisiting things that I've told myself in the past as a therapist and kind of, being curious about new ways to look at things. But just from a data perspective, if you were standing somewhere in a chaotic environment and you're having all of these things go on around you, I don't think most people would be like, I'm feeling super sexy right now, if you're like at a sporting event and things are going on, but that's very much what it's like to be in a neurodivergent brain, is that it's very busy, it's very loud, there's a lot of tabs open, and the world is just more it's just like more in your face, I guess. And so if you're feeling all of that in a visceral way, to like, relax and lean into it and let that all go is asking for something that's kind of viscerally impossible.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. 42%.
Yeah, and that's like at rest. I mean, yeah, I don't even wanna know what I look like when I'm really trying to do something. But, I had this moment where a client that I was working with had, this was years ago, but a client was talking about this like postpartum time period where like sex had become really complicated, and she said, everybody is saying things like, oh, you hate your body after you have a baby, and that's why sex is weird, or you're tired, or that. And she goes, none of that really applies to me. She's like, I actually like my body more now, and I'm tired, but I've always been tired. But she said, I something is not clicking for me, and I don't know what it was. And we experimented with like a bunch of different ideas of, what was happening with her sensory world, and what was happening with predictability, and, timing and time of day, and how spent she was, and things like that. And we played around with a lot of different ideas. And she came back weeks later and she's like, you're not going to believe this. Like, this has changed everything. She's like, it was just a blindfold. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I just can't process visual things when I'm trying to get out of my head and just enjoy things. So she goes, all of the things that we talked about, I tried them, and time of day and planning and talking about different things and all of it. And she's like, it was helpful. She's like, but you know what worked? The blindfold. And she's like, I feel like a new person. Like, you just take that one sensory piece off the table, and I'm totally able and willing to engage in a different way. And I was just like, well, I need to go back to school. I mean, it's like sometimes it's so much simpler than all of the things that are, going through our heads. But the sensory world of autistic people is very, very deep and pervasive in all settings. So, especially with sex, I mean, we have got to talk about the body and what's going on.
Mhm. Well, and the other thing I'm thinking of, okay, so I heard you already say that many women are not diagnosed,
Yeah.
right? So if they're not diagnosed with being autistic, what are they being diagnosed with?
Oh, anxious. There, you have anxiety. You're borderline. Everyone's borderline, apparently. If you've ever had struggle with any relationship ever, you're just borderline until proven otherwise. So most of the clients that come to me in the beginning have either been told they're incredibly anxious, OCD, or borderline. And I just can't tell you how much the borderline piece doesn't fit. It's so obvious within one session that nothing there fits. But they're frequently told that this is much more of a problem of their thoughts. If you just relaxed a little bit more, and didn't weren't so hard on yourself and things like that. The perfectionism, you need more self-care. And I think what is often missed in women is autistic women don't do self-care the way that neurotypical people do. So you're very infrequently going to see them like turn on the TV and kick their feet up and just enjoy some downtime on the couch. They're often people who need to be doing, and learning, and kind of like hands-on things are actually relaxing. So they get a lot more relaxation from special interests. So they often find that therapy doesn't work because all these things that they're being, told to do or just don't really fit their brain.
So, not to make this about me, but I'm gonna make it
Yeah,
about me. So
please.
so that so that pottery
Yeah.
passion,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There, yes, like, I mean, pottery is very neurodivergent. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't know if you know, that is like that's top 10 special interests for women. So
You
is
know, when
working
you
in helping professions, learning about people, animals, learning a lot about psychology. We can talk about that later.
Oh, okay, alright, well,
Pottery's a good one, though. Pottery, see, but it, in doing pottery, you're sort of forcing your body to relax, right? Like, you're sitting, it's very like fluid, like all of that. But your brain can still be online because you're kind of like in the process. So a lot of times with like self-care, which is almost a dirty word, I think, for a lot of autistic people, we're like, don't come at me with your mindfulness and your self-care. But with self-care, it has to be an activity that like allows something to rest. So in that case, it may be, this is giving me physical rest. I'm like able to sit and be a little bit more slow and deliberate, and my mind is still able to be engaged. Whereas maybe, something like running is really good for your physical body, and maybe it gives your mind a little bit of a break. It's kind of like understanding which piece of you is needing to rest.
Yeah, that's so interesting because
Mhm.
that is like the pottery in particular. I am not a very embodied person. I like
Yeah.
tease myself, and my clients love this now too. I call it brain in a jar syndrome,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so pottery is one of the few ways that I can connect with my body
Interesting.
and be in my body because you have to connect your brain with your hands and the clay.
Wow.
And it's like this constant. So your brain is still online, but I can't be thinking about other stuff.
Yeah. I love
Right? Like
that.
that kind of thing. That's so funny. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
There last year, the last retreat that I did, we brought up the topic of self-care, and we kind of went around in a circle, and people were just sharing if they wanted to about things that helped them get out of their head. And one of the participants said that she would go in the winter and jump in the ocean and see how long she could stay underwater. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I could not, that's a sensory nightmare. But she said she does it in swimming pools, she does it in a lot of different places. But basically, the idea was that when you are like near death freezing underwater, you actually can't, your brain just can't think of other things. And then somebody else said, oh my God, it's funny you say that. I drive race cars. And he said, you're literally on the brink of dying the whole time. You have to, all you can think about is don't die, don't die, do whatever you have to do to not die. And he's like, it's the happiest I'll ever feel because I'm only thinking about one thing. And they proceeded to just go around the room and everybody talked about the thing that they did that allowed them to be in a brain space with only maybe one line of thinking, which is so rare for neurodivergent people. I'm like, that
Mm.
makes so much sense.
That is incredible.
Mhm.
That's incredible. Okay, go back to your retreats. What are
Yes.
these? What
Oh,
are they?
it's like my favorite thing in the world. So you know Tammy Nelson. I went to one of Tammy Nelson's retreats, and it was for writers. And I went there, and I immediately was like, I have to get out of here. This is terrifying. And I did not get out of there, even though I wanted to. And I stayed, and I had just a transformative experience. And not necessarily because we were talking about writing, although that was pretty awesome, but because there was something about being there. That was like the first time I was openly saying to anyone that I was autistic and that I was writing about autism. And it was really big in terms of identity stuff for me to just go to a place across the country and have a room of strangers that really didn't have to care who I was and didn't have to like me or not like me. So I came home, and the next day I'm like in the shower talking to my husband. I'm like, we could do a retreat. I could do a retreat. And he's like, here we go. I'm like, yep, here we go. So 36 hours later, it was planned and booked. And I put down this ridiculous deposit on this house on the water. And I was like, if you build it, they will come, right? And we did. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, I have ideas, I have thoughts, we're going to do this. So it has evolved. But we're doing our fourth one in a couple weeks. And basically, it's twice a year. We have this house that we go to every time now, right on the water in Eastern Shore, Maryland. It's beautiful. It's nature, and there's a swimming pool, and it's just this massive house. And so we bring 10 people, and you can be in any place in your relationship with your own neurodivergence. You don't have to be formally diagnosed. But we really just go to this house. My husband cooks for 4 days straight, and we have a schedule during the day of topics that we get into. We have nights are kind of like open, and we like, there's one room where there's board games, there's people out by the bonfire. You can do whatever you want. But the beauty of it is you're there to unmask. And I think because it's a safe place, everything there is made to be a safe space. So you are given permission from the first second you walk in to do literally whatever you want. If you don't want to come to a single class, no problem. If you want to go swimming in the middle of it, you want to walk out and make a sandwich, you want to go, play pool, do whatever you want to do. But what generally happens is that for the most part, people are staying in the discussion. So we're doing a lot of content during the day, and we're talking about, what it's like to have trauma from being a person who didn't know they were autistic until they were older. We're talking about friendships, talking about parenting, if parenting's a thing, relationships. We really get into all of the things, and we really just allow it to be a place where people can show up the way they need to. So what ends up happening within seconds every time, I mean, every time is people are just, they're doing a jigsaw puzzle. Now we're talking about the National Jigsaw Puzzle Championship, and we're talking about forecasting weather, and we're talking about books we're reading. And so we just nerd out from the second, and you just realize that neurodiverse communication is just different. So people immediately connect. They just immediately, it's nothing like the real world. It's the opposite of probably every other place. And by the end of the weekend, everyone's in tears. They're just walking out with this experience of, is this what safety feels like? And I just every time I have like this crash of just sadness when I go home, because it's very, very different to be in that space, even as the person who's hosting it, to be in that space and then come back to your real life. It's very jarring. Like, it feels like whiplash for me every time. But it
Yeah.
has deeply inspired me to figure out whatever's happening there and duplicate it. Like, I want more of this. I want to write on this. I want to present on this, because this is the problem, is that, when we're in the world as the neurodivergent person, you're the person that's different. And, a lot of us who are neurodivergent don't even know we're neurodivergent. And so when you go to this place and everyone is like you start to realize there's nothing wrong with you, which is that's a newsflash to a lot of us. We're like, "No, that can't be." And it really, it does something to people. So I have a couple people that have come multiple times to the retreats, and they come back different every time. Like, it's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I think I'm just trying to figure out a way to translate that experience to something bigger, and to help more people have that experience of just being safe and learning to figure out who they really are underneath all the masking.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Is there ever any resistance to unmasking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and honestly, the resistance is typically not about, like, our own willingness to be authentic. The resistance is often because it's not safe.
Mhm.
A lot of times people are like, my partner doesn't like me when I'm unmasked, or, that people think I'm annoying when I'm unmasked. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, that is absolutely true. Like, there are going to be partners who are like, I really preferred you when you were not yourself. And, there's going to be people that you're not for them. And it really requires sometimes, like, reevaluating the people around you in your life, and maybe even buttoning up some of the parts of you for people that are going to stay in your life anyway. Families who can't accept it, people who've been around for a long time that don't like your unmasked self. I think a lot of us have to pick and choose who we show our full authentic selves to, which I think is
Mm.
also part of unmasking.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so curious because, I work with a lot of couples,
Mhm.
and one of the things that it seems like people often come in with, if I have an idea that one of the partners is either autistic or some form of, like neurosparkly,
Yeah.
neurospicy, right? And this isn't necessarily my specialty, except that like when you're talking about sex and from like a
Mhm.
affirming, whether that's poly, kinky, gender queer kind
Mhm.
of lens, I think you just get a more diverse
Yeah.
array of people in there. But when I have somebody who is probably, autistic or like I said, ADHD, whatever the thing is, they tend to come in thinking that they are the problem.
Yeah.
Even if their partner's not necessarily blaming them.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
one of the things.
You're sort of told you're the problem from day one. Asking, little kids who are just asking a ton of questions in class. It's like, okay, give somebody else a turn. Like, you talk too much, or like, oh, you always have something to say, or you ask a question and it's like, why are you such a smart ass? And you're like, what? What do you mean? I'm just asking a question. So I think from a very young age, kids are told that they're too much. They're too much. They're too sensitive. And the reality is, like, we are sensitive. Like, we're incredibly sensitive in our bodies and our ability to read the room, to pick up on tone, and to feel the emotions inside a conversation. We feel everything. And then we're told that that's bad. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to do that. So, even in like connecting with the things that are so great, I see this with my kids. It's easy to see it in adults. You're like, okay, well, autism's my thing. I could talk to anybody about autism, but that's not cute when you're at the sports event. You're at a game for your kids or you're at a party with other adults. I can't really be myself because it would be hard for me to do small talk and, talk about things that are really boring to me. But you see it with kids too. I don't want to talk. How was your day? Fine. Okay. Well, who'd you sit with at lunch? Nobody. Okay. What are you learning about? Stuff. Okay, great. And so you're pulling teeth, and then you're like, how was jujitsu? Oh, well, this and this and this and this and this. Like, that is autism, like, I don't want to tell you who I sat with at lunch. I do want to tell you this article I read, though. So if you're growing up with that, you're used to that, you get that in relationships too. Like, how much can you talk about one thing with your partner, especially if they're not into that one thing? So we take on that role of, I guess I'm the wrong one. I guess I'm the one that needs to kind of button it up. And then, when you go to therapy, there are a lot of therapists that don't have this background, and the trauma that is being done to the neurodivergent partners is unbelievable. Like, you're being rigid, you're being very selfish, you're not taking care of your partner. This isn't normal, those types of things. You're being mean. And there are so many things that go on with neurodivergent brains and bodies that, like, if we're not talking about that in therapy, we are missing a massive opportunity to help our clients. So when people do finally get to a counselor that's like, hey, I'm not here to actually change you. Like, I don't want you to be not neurodivergent. I want to work that into what we're figuring out. And, when you can do that, you're going to see that it's not drastic changes that you're doing. It's not this one particular theory. It's not any one intervention. It's really just seeing someone for who they are and making adaptations based on what they need. And I think that's
Mhm.
possible with most couples.
That's so good to hear. I mean,
Mhm.
because a lot of times, by the time somebody gets to um, almost any couples therapist,
Yeah,
it's very rare that we're actually the first one
almost
that
never.
people, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I have been the fourth,
Yeah. I
you
have
know?
one I have one couple, they've had 12. 12. 12. And I'm like, "Why are you even here?" Like, the fact that you trust me to do something different is mind-blowing to me. Like, the sense of responsibility I feel to this couple to just not suck is off the charts. Because 'cause I'm like, "I will not do what they have done before." And you see it. You can see the harm that's been done every time. I need to stop talking with my hands. So Emma and I were talking about how we're from Jersey, and I talk with my hands and I rip my headphones out. Okay. But you can see the harm that has been done from other therapists in how they talk, from, how they're describing their experiences. And it's like it's such a big responsibility to undo that harm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing in there is that sometimes people are probably framing a can't as a won't.
Yeah. Oh, all the time.
Yeah. And so, like, how, like when somebody is sitting in front of me, I don't believe in resistant couples if they're sitting in your office, right?
Yes. Oh, I like that.
Like
That's
you
good.
came in, so there
Yeah.
may be barriers or something's not working for you. But if
Sure.
you actually sat in city traffic to come and
Yes.
see me, to pay me money,
Yep.
that's not resistance. This
Yep.
means there might be a disconnect or a mismatch, but
Sure.
that I don't think that that's resistance. So I do think though that like for partners who have been in this dance with each other, and I'm not just talking about the neurotypical
Yeah.
partner. I'm talking on both sides that there's kind of this tension between like,
Yeah.
well, you won't, you
Yes.
know. And so how do you help people tease out the can't from the won't?
Yeah. I think you have to figure out, like, asking really literal, direct questions is really important. One thing I see all the time is that, we will like tell autistic people about themselves. And I do the same thing in my own marriage. I do it all the time. Like, you're grumpy, like you're angry right now, or you're annoyed with me. And my husband will be like, that feels like something that should have been a question. I'm like, right, that should be a question. But we read them non-verbally, and then we decide what we are seeing, and we're often wrong because we're coming from different brains and different neurotypes. And so if we're asking direct questions, like, are you angry when you talk to your wife like that? And it's almost always like, no. something else is happening, and it's like, you don't care. That's the thing that, like, if I could take one statement and just get rid of it forever, like, you don't care, you don't care, you don't care. We're told that we don't care all the time. And the problem is that we actually care so much, like so intensely. And even a lot, I think men are the ones that get told this a lot, probably way more than women, because women are pretty good about people pleasing, which is not healthy either. But the men are hearing all the time, like, you come home and, you don't say anything to me and you shut down and you don't ask me about my day. And they are spent. I mean, they are just so exhausted from going from the working world that is a ton of masking and a ton of energy depletion and just every hard thing, transition home. And then we have these kids and these families and these demands. And we're just like, I have nothing left to give. I really do love you. I want to ask about your day, but my brain is firing at 10% because of everything I've had to do. So it's like, if you can say to a couple, it sounds like your partner is feeling not cared for at the end of the day. Is that what you intend? 99% of the time they're like, no, like, not at all. So I think intention is a place where I like to go with couples, and I tend to do it with humor. Or I'll say, what I'm not seeing here is like forget you, like, I'm not interested in making you happy. And I'll use some spicy language and make it funny. But almost never will you hear an autistic person be like, I don't care about you. They often will say, like, I don't know how to care about you the way you want me to, or I don't know what you're looking for. Can you help me define that? Most of us are like really learning about relationships for the first time in our romantic relationships. It's the only reciprocity that we've probably had that was successful.
Wow, yeah. And so, like when somebody says, "I am just spent,"
Hmm.
right? And now that's a can't. Like,
Yeah.
you can't pour
There's nothing
from.
to give.
Yeah, it's empty. The well is dry right,
Hmm.
until that recharge. What do you do when you turn to the asking partner?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to them?
Yeah. Well, I think we need to find a system where everyone's needs are defined and we're figuring out something that could work better, because it's like, I had one couple where they were talking about, she wanted time together every day, and he was like, "Okay, I can do that." But it started to feel like a demand for him. He was like, "Well, now that I have to do it," like, he had some PDA stuff coming up, and he was like, "When you tell me I have to do this demand avoidance comes up for a lot of autistic people, and it's just like, ugh, like, now I don't want to." But if it didn't have to do it, I actually would want to, because it would be my idea. So sometimes it's that kind of thing, like, okay, what is it that you're seeking from this? Well, I like that we have time together every day. Okay, that's awesome. That's good to know. So every day you'd like to have something. And for some people, they really like the routine. They're like, great, every night for a half an hour before bed, we lay and we watch a movie, or, whatever, we snuggle. But for some, they have to have the autonomy. It's a total other end of the spectrum. Like, I has to be on my terms, and we have to do it in a way that feels okay to me. So it's like, it's really figuring out, even within autistic people, there are these extreme opposite ends of ways that people show up. So kind of figuring out, like, what are you needing in this moment with the time together? Concentrated attention every day. Got it. Okay. So is that doing? Is that listening? Is that talking? Is that playing a game together, eating together? What would make you feel good? Okay. What can work there? And sometimes it's literally just being in the same space. Like, don't talk. You can't talk. Great. Don't sit next to each other. Put your hand on your wife's leg and sit there and watch a show that she wants to watch with you. And you have to do very little work. Could that be okay? Could we try that? And just seeing, like, how good does it feel when it's something like within your capacity to make a concentrated effort there. And I think so many people are so deep in the, like, you don't care, that they're shocked how much their partners
Mm.
do want to try something.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Hmm.
So, all right, you said three little letters that I have been hearing
Hmm.
a lot
Yes.
lately, and those three letters are PDA. And so I remember associating PA with school resistance because, much
Yeah.
like you, I started my career in the schools,
Yes.
right? And I remember this idea of school resistance, but now I'm starting to hear it with adults.
Yes. It
So
is a thing. Yeah, I've been going to the PDA North America conference for years, and they're fantastic. They're probably one of the only organizations in the US that I think is really staying on top of this topic and doing it justice. They're doing much better in other countries than we are doing here with PDA in general. So this conference this year was so different, and we really talked a lot more about this internalized PDA, and some people don't like that term. I don't think we have it all figured out, but I think the thing that I took away is that, what we've heard about PDA in the last 5 years has been, school refusal and kids that have these kind of explosive behaviors and are not able to do regular parenting and all that kind of stuff. They respond really poorly to, boundaries and consequences. But there's this other side of PDA, which we're seeing in adults in massive numbers. I mean, my caseload is just bursting with PDA. And I'm starting to think that it probably has a lot more to do with autism and in general. Like I think a lot of autistic people have these traits. I don't know what we'll do diagnostically with that. I don't really care, honestly. I think it's just a matter of using the right techniques for the right person. So it's just this demand avoidance. So the idea of someone putting a demand on you causes an intense nervous system reaction. So the example I always give is like if my husband and I were sitting down and having a conversation and he was like, "Do you want to go on a vacation?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, we should plan one." Okay. It's like if we had a collaborative conversation that resulted in saying we should save money for that, I'd be like, "We should definitely save money for that. Great idea." But if my husband came to me and was like, "You're spending too much. You need to stop shopping so much," I would be like, "You can die in a fire." Like I would have such a visceral like it's I mean, I can't even tell you how strong the response is. It's like, I mean, genuine, like, can we use the F word on here? Is that okay?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, like if my husband were to say, like, you shop too much, there's too many packs, I would be like, fuck off. Like that's exactly what would happen because who are you? And I'd be like, first of all, no man is gonna tell me what to shop. I have my own business and you don't control my money. Like it would get so far so
Mhm.
fast. And why is that? Like, that's actually not how I feel, and that's not who my husband is, and I would not talk to anybody that way if I was thinking about what was happening, but something about someone dropping a demand on me in that moment makes me pissed off in my body. And then whatever comes out of my mouth is like almost like a trauma response. It's just like how dare you, And that's what's happening with demands. So it could be, we never have sex, we did it like and you put sex on the table like that. And what happens? Like, who's gonna tell like, please, like you're not gonna tell me to have sex. Like now I definitely don't want to have sex because all you're telling me is what I don't do. And now it feels like something I have to do just to keep you off my back. So if we're paying attention to demands, it's a massive force with autistic people, massive. Whereas if you turn to someone and said like, "Hey, I'd love to have a conversation about, where our sex life is going. I miss you, or I'm really wanting to connect with you. Can we talk about that this weekend?" If there's autonomy in it, the nervous system is like, "We're good. Like, cool. Sounds great. Let's do that." So, it's really a matter of understanding where demands get in the way of a relationship. And I think this is really common. So, whether people are like diagnosed. I mean, we can't really diagnose, but some people will like identify like I'm a PDA or I have traits of PDA. Whether they're saying that or whether they're not, I'm constantly bringing up the idea of demands in relationships now with my clients. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's landing. Just like as soon as somebody tells me I have to do something, I'm not doing it.
Wow.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
That is so interesting.
Mhm.
That is so in this moment, I'm like, "Oh, this is one of those, is it being from New Jersey or
I
is it?"
I've asked myself that. So my husband has said that. He's like, "Okay, her jersey is coming out." And he's like, "We do not she is a strong, independent woman. We do not tell her what to do." And he laughs about it. And I'm like, "No, I got to be honest. Like, I'm not proud of the way I'm communicating in that moment either. Like, I don't love it." And it goes beyond that. I'll tell you a recent scenario and I'll change some details here, but I had a couple that was dealing a lot with some trouble with intimacy behind closed doors, one on one, the husband said to me, like, "I got to be honest. It's like it's not that I don't love my wife or that I don't want to have sex with her, but she was dealing with some health problems in the past, and when she was doing treatments and stuff like that, like I looked at her and she looked really ill. And every time I would look at her, I would get upset. And when we really got to the bottom of it, it took a while, just one on one, to be able to really connect to what was going on. Her emotions, her sadness, her appearance were a demand. Like, if you look at someone who is going through incredible pain that you love, what do you feel when you look at them? Horrible sadness, like despair, hopelessness. Like, it's a terrible feeling, right? So now he looks at her. That's what the demand is. The demand is, now every time I look at you, I have to feel terrible, and I don't want to feel terrible. So I'm just not going to look at you. So I'm just not going to get intimate with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with you, because when I do, my whole nervous system shuts down for the rest of the day. So neurotypical people might be able to look at someone and feel that sadness and go about their day and be like, I'm sad. Anyway, want a sandwich? Want to go have sex? Want to do whatever? But a lot of neurodivergent people, it's because we actually care so much. We're hyper empathetic that now that feels like a demand. And so sex life tanks because he is overwhelmed by feelings for his wife, who now, by the way, thinks that he doesn't love her because he can't have sex with her.
Yeah.
So what? Like, I mean, mind blown, mind blown.
My
So
gosh. So what do you do with that? Like, how do you help somebody reframe that so they can
yeah.
look at her again?
So I think it starts with naming it, giving patience, giving patience with the person who's kind of figuring this out, and just saying, behind closed doors, when I said to him, this actually makes a lot of sense. Like, I would imagine that you have a lot of shame about this. It's like, yeah, yes, like incredible shame. Like, I love my wife. I'm not this person. I'm not a cold person. I want to comfort her. I can't comfort her. So then once we understand what we're looking at, it's like, yeah. I mean, imagine how different it would feel to what is any other therapist going to say if they don't understand PDA? Like, look, man, she's going through it right now. And the last thing that she needs is to feel like you don't love her. I mean, there are a lot of people that would have taken this a different direction and not continued to be curious. And it was only because I've had that training to go, ooh, that really actually sounds like a demand. And so it allows me to be more empathetic. It allows me to be more curious and go, hold on a second. This sounds like something totally different, actually. And once we named it, he was like, wow, that is really something to notice. I don't always feel like it's a demand. And it's just like, it's when things are really bad, or when I'm otherwise depleted, or, I'm having a tough day. So now we've sort of figured out, like, there are times of day where he feels less like this. There are connecting things that they can do where he notices less of that. And over time, the demand is getting better. But it's like him knowing that it would get better, could get better, was a huge part of that, rather than just, I'm a monster who can't have sex with my
Mhm.
wife, which is what a lot of people are coming in believing. It's just like so sad. So there's hope for any of these things. And I think a lot of it is just naming it and being like, all right, let's figure out how we can work with that.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Well, I hope you're going to do a training on that at some point because, yeah, well, specifically because in the bedroom, everything is just so much more charged
Yes.
because the vulnerability is there and the rawness is there and also the shame is there, right? And the self
Yes.
consciousness can be there and that kind of thing. So I could totally see that. I know that I could talk to you for 4 more hours.
All day.
Truly, and so I am already going to ask you to come back for
Please.
sure. But in the meantime, where can people find you and what are you doing? Tell me, give me your brag sheet. What's
Okay.
happening?
All right, sure. Since you asked, KoryAndreas.com is my website, and I'm on Instagram at neurocorious. Um, and there it is always hopping over there. Right now I'm doing the podcast, and I also have some new classes coming out this year. This is a new thing that I'm doing. So May 4th, my next class drops, and that's Foundations of Neurodivergent Care, neuroaffirming care. So we're talking that one's for therapists, anybody who's looking to kind of expand their understanding of working with neurodivergent clients. But I'm also leaning into some other new things. I'm going to be doing some courses just for neurodivergent people, so we can get some more information about our own neurology online. So all that fun stuff is on my website. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I'll keep you in the loop. But doing a lot of writing, have some things in the works for 2027 that will be new exciting announcements. But yeah, there's just a lot going on. But I love the virtual world. I think a lot of neurodivergent people, we connect best in virtual spaces. So I'm pretty active on Instagram, active on Substack, and these courses and things like that. So anybody who's looking to connect and learn more, please link up virtually and we will do our thing.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it. And yes, you have the best Instagram handle I've ever heard. Like I
No one ever
love
gets
telling
it. They always
oh,
are like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Curious, curious." Get it?
I 100% got it. I 100%
There's
got it the
someone
second
who
I saw
got
it.
it.
Yes, I did. I did. And you have like some of the most beautiful like graphics. I suck at social media. Like it is terrible. And you have some of the most beautiful and creative graphics. Like it is just your page is everything mine isn't.
My husband has a love affair with we are in a throuple with AI constantly. So he is definitely my graphics manager in big time. So anytime I have a brilliant idea, I'm like, "Hey, I need you to make this." And he's like, "Got it, on it." So yeah, I'm just like I'm the ideas person. He makes it pretty.
I love that. Oh my gosh, what a match. So, thank you so much for being
Thank
here, and
you.
I wish I could keep you all day, and
Let's do it.
we'll just have you back.
Round two.
So,
I'm ready.
yes.
Thanks, Emma.
Okay, amazing. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this after hours conversation. If something in today's episode made you pause, get curious, or see yourself a little more clearly, share it with a friend and keep that conversation going. Until next time, keep exploring that messy, beautiful space between meaning and being human. I'll see you next time.